Welcome to another edition of VIVIFY TV. I'm your host, Dr. K. In this edition of VIVIFY TV, we are checking out Troy Trombone Shorty Andrews' awesome book, Trombone Shorty. That's happening right now.
This is an Achille VIVIFY educational research tutorial. For more, here's Dr. Lou Jean Kennebrew Jr.
Welcome to another edition of VIVIFY TV. I'm your host, Dr. K. VIVIFY TV is an abolitionist educational channel dedicated to presenting culturally relevant and culturally responsive pedagogy. Our mission here at VIVIFY TV is to increase your knowledge and expand your awareness. Let's get ready to check this one out. Troy Andrews, aka to the world as Trombone Shorty, an award-winning illustrator. Brian Collier. Wow, that's right. When you see the illustrations in this book, you will know. All right, so let's get ready to check it out. Trombone Shorty. Trombone Shorty, the Read Aloud remix. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, scholar. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Ms. Madeline Henderson and the D.A.S.H Foundation Project, as we get ready to get started. Where you at? Where you at? We have our own way of living down here in New Orleans and our own way of talking too. And that's what we like to say when we want to tell a friend hello. So, where you at? When every place you go has a different way of greeting. Some people say various phrases, and this is one of those phrases that you know. When you hear someone in that particular part of the world, of the country, say, where you at? You know that means, what's good with you? How you doing? What's up? Lots of kids have nicknames, but I want to tell you the story of how I got mine. Just like when you listen to your favorite song, let's start at the beginning, because this is a story about music. All right. But before we can understand how much music means to me, you have to know how important it is to my hometown, my greatest inspiration. I grew up in a neighborhood in New Orleans called Treme, and at any time of the day or night, you could hear music floating in the air. Man, that's fantastic. Look at those. Look at this beautiful illustration by Brian Collier. The brilliant illustrations that you've already seen. Now, just a quick check-in. What are some of the things that illustrations can teach us? Yes, the genre. What else? Tone, mood. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? What do you got? Yes. Illustration can teach us the author's point of view. And there are 3 points of views authors can usually use when they're telling a story. But we're going to get more into that a little later on. Let's get back to this awesome book. There was music in my house too. My big brother James played the trumpet so loud you could hear him halfway across town. He was the leader of his own band, and my friends and I would pretend to be in a band too. You have to have the insight. You see him? He's already putting it together in his head that that's what he wants to be in life, and he's not waiting around. He's starting right now. Follow me, James would say. Keep that phrase in your head. We've already heard. What's the other phrase that we learned so far? Yep, you got it. Where you at? Now we're getting ready to see another phrase right here developing right here. Follow me. All right, let's keep reading and see. There's one time every year that's more exciting than any other. Mardi Gras. Parades fill the street and beaded necklaces are thrown through the air to the crowd. I love the brass bands and their own trumpets, trombones, and saxophones, and the biggest brass instrument of them all, the tuba. Oh man, which rested over the musician's head like an elephant trunk. You ever see that big tuba? See those guys carrying that big tuba out there playing in the marching band? Speaking of the tuba, check this band out real quick so you can get an understanding of just how big the tuba is and just how cool it sounds. Check this out. where you at? Where you at? The musicians would call. That's right. There's that phrase again. There's that greeting. Where you at? Where you at? I love it. All day long, I could see brass bands parade by my house while my neighbors danced along. I love these parades during Mardi Gras because they made everyone forget about their troubles for a little while. People didn't have a lot of money in Treme, but we always had a lot of music. I listened to all these sounds and mix them together just like we make our food. We take one big pot, throw in a sausage, crab, shrimp, chicken, vegetables, rice, whatever's in the kitchen, and stir it all together and let it cook. When it's done, it's the most delicious taste you've ever tried. We call it gumbo, and that's what I wanted my music to sound like. Different styles combine to create my own musical gumbo. So, you see Trombone Shorty now, he's coming into his own, he's envisioning his music, he wants his music to sound like musical gumbo. So what other types of music, other types of genres do you think he might want to use? You know, he may want to use rock, may want to use funk. The big one, right? May want to put a little hip hop in there. Spice it up, right? Yeah. All right, let's keep reading. But first, I needed an instrument. The great thing about music is that you don't even need a real instrument to play. So, my friends and I decided to make our own. Man, these guys they're on a mission. They don't even need real instruments. That's how serious they are. We might have sounded different from the real brass bands, but we felt like the greatest musicians of Treme. We were making music, and that's all that mattered. Then one day, I found a broken trombone that looked too beaten up to make music anymore. It didn't sound perfect, but finally, with a real instrument in my hand, I was ready to play. Look at the young kings right there. You see check the illustration out. You see those crowns up there? Oh yeah, they got the crowns on their head. These are young kings, and they are ready to play. Found a trombone that didn't really look like it could do too much, but look, that didn't stop Trombone Shorty. He was ready to go. The next time the parade went down my house, I grabbed my trombone and headed out into the street. My brother James noticed me playing along and smiled proudly. Trombone Shorty, he called out, because the instrument was twice my size. Where you at? Trombone Shorty, where you at? Oh man, listen, didn't even worry about if the trombone could really do anything, right? he wasn't worried about that. He was just like, listen, I'm getting out into the street and I'm gonna start playing this thing. I'm gonna start vibing with this music. From that day on, everyone called me Trombone Shorty. I took that trombone everywhere. I went and never stopped playing. I was so small that sometimes I fell right over to the ground because it was so heavy. But I always got back up. Wow. We've been reading a lot of stories. Checking out a lot of stories in the Read Aloud remix. But they all have one synonymous theme. You've already talked about theme. You know it's the message and the moral. What did Trombone Shorty just say? Right, he fell down. But what he did, he always what? Yes, he always got back up. And what about our other stories about the gymnast? Right? Remember that? Lori Hernandez? She fell down. But what? She got back up. You see the theme? There's a theme going on throughout these books, right? Very cool. I listened to my brother play songs over and over. I taught myself those songs too. I practiced day and night, and sometimes I fell asleep with my trombone in my hands. Look at that illustration. Is he not serious? One day, my mom surprised me with tickets to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, the best and biggest music festival in town. We went to see Bo Diddley, who my mom said was one of the most important musicians of all time. As I watched on stage, I raised my trombone to my lips and started to play along. He stopped the band in the middle of the song and asked, "Who's playing out there?" Everyone started pointing, but Bo Diddley couldn't see me because I was the smallest one in the place. So my mom held me up in the air and said, "That's my son, Trombone Shorty." Wow. Trombone Shorty is making his way into his gift right now. "Well, Trombone Shorty, come on up here," Bo Diddley said. The crowd passed me overhead until I was standing on the stage next to Bo Diddley himself. I walked right up to the microphone and held my trombone high up in the air, ready to blow. "Who do you want to play?" Bo Diddley asked. "Follow me," I said. You mean to tell me Trombone Shorty just got on stage with one of the greatest rock and roll legends ever and told that rock and roll legend, "You follow me. Not I'm following you. You follow me." He's got confidence. You need confidence, young kings, young queens, and you've got it. Just like Trombone Shorty, you've got to have the same confidence about the dreams and the things that you want to do in life, and you can start them now. After I played with Bo Diddley, I knew I was ready to have my own band. I got my friends together and we called ourselves the 5 o'clock band because that was the time we went out to play each day after finishing our homework. Isn't that brilliant? The 5 o'clock band. 5 o'clock band, I love it. We played all around New Orleans. I practiced and practiced, and soon my brother James asked me to join his band. When people wondered who the kid in the band was, he said proudly, "That's my little brother, Trombone Shorty. Where you at?" And now I have my own band called Trombone Shorty and Orleans Avenue, named after the street in Treme. I've played all around the world, but I always come back to New Orleans. And when I'm home, I make sure to keep my eye on the younger musicians in town and to help them out, just like my brother did for me. He's giving back. You see, he's going all around the world. Now he's coming back home to Treme, giving back to young musicians just like you, young artists just like you. And you've got to do the same thing too. When you become the biochemist, when you become the senator, when you become a great musician like Trombone Shorty, always remember you gotta bring it back. Today I played at the same New Orleans Jazz Festival where once I played with Bo Diddley. And when the performance ends, I lead a parade of musicians around just like I used to do in the streets of Treme with my friends. I still keep my trombone in my hands, and I will never let it go. Yeah, Trombone Shorty. Yeah, Read Aloud remix sponsored by the D.A.S.H Foundation Project and Miss Madeline Henderson. Well, that was certainly an awesome book. Trombone Shorty. Started out with no instrument, just a vision. No instrument, just a vision. Wasn't worried about if he had a big fancy trombone. Found a trombone. Trombone didn't even work. Didn't stop him. Got out there and was like, I know this is what I want to do. I'm going for it. Yeah. And that's what we got to do too. Always start with the vision in your mind. If it's something that you want to do, if it's something that you want to accomplish, you get out there. You don't need everything. You don't need everything to be perfect to start out with. All you have to have, inner vision, right? Perfect inner vision. If you can see it perfectly in your head, that's all. Enough said. You get out there and get started on it. It's Dr. K here. Thank you so much for taking time out to join us for this edition of VIVIFY TV. Until the next you and I meet, Keep your mindset global, your love universal, and by all means, stay vivified.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of VIVIFY TV. VIVIFY TV is an educational research platform created by Dr. Eugene Kennebrew Jr.